Greetings, Iain from RTO here. Welcome to another album ranking on RTO, and today is Ladies' Day on the channel, so we're going to be looking at we're going to look at a band first, and then we're going to look at a solo artist and a very special one. So we're going to start off today with a band. They're a great metal band, formed in 1978, and it's the mighty Girlschool. Girlschool, as I said, formed in 1978 from a band formed at school called Painted Lady. And in that band called Painted Lady, we have Kim McAuliffe guitars, Enid Williams on the bass, and Denise Dufort on the drums. They were later joined by Kelly Johnson and became a big band. During the 90s they seemed to be more concentrated on touring. They come back and did some albums. I've had one or two members of the band, but they sort of got back together again, and before, sadly, in 2007, Kelly Johnson passed away of cancer. They've made 13 albums in total. They have the longest running all-female rock band, and have been active now for over 40 years. And they were around at the beginning of the new wave of British heavy metal, and we all got into them for various reasons, being teenage boys, all that sort of stuff. So, as I said, 13 albums, so we'll get a cracking. So coming in at number 13 then, we have the fifth album, released in 1985, called Running Wild. This was the only album that featured the band as a five-piece, after the original guitarist Kelly Johnson left, and vocal duties were shared by Jackie Beaumeade, the new guitarist, and Kim McAuliffe. So we've got Jackie Beaumeade on lead and backing vocals and keyboards, which is always a bit suspect. Kim McAuliffe on the rhythm guitar, lead vocals. Chris Bonacy on the lead guitar. Jill Weston-Jones, again, different bass player. And ever-present Denise Dufort on the drums. First track, Let Me Go. Some of the riffs on this are really good, but you're going to guess what I'm going to say next. Production. Smooth on heavy metal does not work. Terrible mixing. Running Wild's the next one, the title track. Terrible drumming. Poor old Denise. Now this is a drummer that's always been prominent. She hits them drums as hard as any bloke I know. She's absolutely a brilliant drummer. And what do? Ruin it with the drums. And it's a wishy-washy ballad that's not Girlschool. Then they do the next track is a cover by Kiss from the Destroyer album, Do You Love Me? And it's the best track on the album, without a doubt. Love this version of it. They really give it justice. Great track. Then we get a track called Something for Nothing. Here we go, more overproduced sound. It doesn't sound raw and dirty, and makes the track very mediocre. Now I have heard this live, and boy does it sound good live. Are you ready for the next track? I don't mind this one. Some great guitar work here by Chris Bonacy. Great guitarist. Probably not as good as Kelly, but she did a fine job when she was in the band. Next track, Nowhere to Run. Here we go, more overproduced 80s metal, which is a shame because it's not a bad song. It's just bad delivery and sound. I Want You Back. Something straight out the dribble of MTV. Not very good at all. Nasty Nasty. Good song, overproduced. Got some good riffs, but I don't want to hear smooth riffs. I want to hear dirty riffs. Need smooth stuff. Leave that to the pop. You know, they should have left Metal alone. Then we've got Love Is a Lie. Love the riff on this from Kim. It's really good, and it's not too bad. It's the highlight of the track. They actually let her do a proper riff. But then the rest of it sort of falls into the usual smooth sound. And the last track, Can't You See? This song has so much potential, and then that production on it just ruins it. Okay, I know I sound like a broken record when we talk about metal's 80s, but from the 80s, but it is true. You know, trying to make heavy metal trendy, we didn't need all that rubbish, because heavy metal has always been prominent. There's enough fans out there. It's got some good songs on it, but they're just produced badly. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 5 out of 10. Okay, then coming in at number 12, we have their fourth album, released in 1983. And it was produced, no less, by Noddy Holder and Jim Lee from Slade. On here we've got Kim McAuliffe on the rhythm guitar, Kelly Johnson on the lead guitar, Jill Weston on the bass, Denise Dufort on the drums, and we got some additional people on here. We got Lemmy doing backing vocals, Vicky Blue backing vocals, Don Garbu on keyboards and explosions, Mark Haircut on tambourine, and Paul Sampson, no less, on hand claps and general noise. Going Under. Do I want to hear keyboards on a Girlschool song? Simple answer, no. Ruins the track, because it's a pretty decent track. Second track is a Slade cover, surprise surprise. It's High and Dry. This is a really good version of the song. I don't mind it. One of the better songs on the album, actually. Play Dirty. It's got a little bit of electronic bass sounding on this. It's not too bad. It reminds me actually of a song by a band from the same sort of time called Coney Hatch, and a track called This Ain't Love. It sort of adds to it. It's not a bad track. I don't dislike it. Then we get a cover, but a T-Rex cover. 20th Century Boy. And Kelly Johnson's opening riff is terrific. It's one of the best versions of this song I've ever heard. Really good. Then we get Breaking the Wall rules. Again, the drums are a little bit overproduced, and the sound isn't coming through. But it's a great vocal from Kim. Absolutely strong vocal. It's only the drums that sort of let it down. Then we get another Slade cover. This one is Burning in My Heart, which is a great track. And I like the interpretation of this Slade song. It's not far off the original. It's pretty good. Then we get Surrender. A little bit overproduced, but it's not too bad. Rock Me Shock Me. I do like the riffs on this, but there's a bit of a basic keyboard synth on it, and it sort of just ruins it. Running for Cover. I don't like this. Unfortunately, it doesn't even sound like Girlschool to me. It's a wishy-washy 80s metal trollop of a song. It's horrible. Then the last track, and I love what it's called Breakout, and in brackets, Knob in the Media. Best track on the album, my favourite track. Even the drums sound great. It's a great track to end the album, full of energy. A bit of a mixed bag here. Some Slade covers, which are Slade covers, which are good. I wonder why they were on the track. The Mark Bolan track is great. It's just some of the production. It's 1983, isn't it? But on the whole, it's a good listen. So I'm going to give this one an RTO ranking of 5.5. Okay, then coming in at number 11, we have the 8th album. This is released in 1992. It's the last studio album to be recorded with Chris Bonacy, and it's the only one with bassist Jackie Carrera. So we got Kim McAuliffe on lead and backing vocals and rhythm guitar, Chris Bonacy on lead guitar, Jackie Carrera on the bass, the one and only Denise Dufort on the drums. We've got an additional musician here, Darren Allison on the doolal drum on the first track, which is called My Ambition. And I love the start of this. It's a nice acoustic guitar from Chris, and then we go into that more traditional Girlschool sound. Great drumming from Denise, absolutely belting. Then we get one more, not a bad track. Great bass line here from Jackie Carrera, really drive the song along. Good stuff. Can't Say No, Travel. It's a bit generic. It doesn't. There's a lot of these songs on here that are just being pumped out. It's not very memorable. Then we get Wild at Heart. Some really nice riffs on this. Proper sort of sounding Girlschool track. Then we get Can't Do. This definitely is classic 1980, early 80s. Sorry, start again. Sorry about that, folks. It's just classic drumming from Denise. Really adds to the track. We Came, great track. Love the guitar work on here. Both them, Chris and Kim, play well together. Interplay is pretty good. Can't Keep a Good Girl Down. Dirty Rock from the Girls, excellent track. Sitting Pretty, not the best track on the album, but it's got some nice guitar work on it. On My Way, lead guitar work here is good from Chris. I love that sound of the motorbike on it. Great solid line, bass line from Jackie. Take Me, I'm Yours, not a bad track. Highlight of this is Denise's drumming. Again, this album is a really mixed bag. It's got some really good tracks. The production's a lot better now, but some of it isn't. As I said, it's a mixed bag. But I'll still give this one an RTO ranking of 6 out of 10. Okay, then coming in at number 10, we have the 12th album released in 2011, and it's Hit and Run Revisited. This was a re-recorded out version of their classic album from 1981, and it was done to celebrate the 30th anniversary of the release of Hit and Run. On here we've got Kim McAuliffe on lead and backing vocals and guitars, Jackie Chambers on the lead, Enid Williams is now back in the band doing lead and backing vocals and bass, Denise Dufort is on the drums, and we've got a guest singer on here, Dora Pesh. Remember her from Warlock? So the first track, I won't go because we're going to look at them both. So we've got Come On Let's Go, The Hunter, I'm Your Victim, Kick It Down. But I'm going to mention this one, Following the Crowd. This is certainly this is the better version of this song. The other one is a little bit tinny, but this one is brilliant. Then they did a cover of Tush by ZZ Top. It's not a bad version. I don't mind it. Kelly's guitar solo's pretty good in this. It's Kelly or Jackie. It's a really good guitar solo. Hit and Run. It's on here. Watch Your Step. Back to the Start. Yeah, Right. Future Flash. Now, this is one of the tracks that actually sounds better, and there's a more richness to this version, and this is the best version of the song. Then on here you get a little bonus track. You get Demolition Boys, which is off their debut album, and again I prefer the guitar solo than on the original. And then you get a version of Hit and Run, which they do with Dora Pesh. And it's a great version. Them do it, her singing on it. They really good. Okay, this is out, not a bad album. It's just a fresh attack on this great album. I still prefer the original, but there are some songs on this version you know, they've done better. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 6.5. I think time for a drop of coffee. Okay then, coming in at number 9, we have the 6th album, released in 1986, and it's called Nightmare at Maple Cross. They returned back to the 4-piece for this one, and it is Kim McAuliffe on the guitars, Chris Bonacy on lead guitar, Jill Weston Jones on the bass, and Denise DeFort on the drums. First track is called All Day All Night. This one isn't too bad. I love the guitar riffs on there. This is really proper heavy metal. Great vocal from Kim, great guitar work from Chris, excellent. Play With Fire, cool vocal from Kim, great sounding, real prop heavy metal. Danger Sign, oh, this goes back to the birth of the new wave of heavy metal. One of my favourites on the album. Driving riffs, booming drums, great bass line, terrific. Never Too Late. Denise's drumming on this is just out the top drawer, brilliant stuff. Then we do a cover of Tiger Feet. Oh dear, not very good. Yeah, leave that one to Mud, please. Back for more, lots of riffs on here that are great. It's just the singing's a little bit weak. I don't know if it's the weakness or it's the way it was delivered. Let's Go Crazy. Great riffs, great drumming, just a great track. Let's Break Out, meaty track here. The bass line is dirty, the vocal is brilliant. Then we get Turn It Up. This starts off with that 20th Century Fox start, and then in comes Denise on the drums, and it's just good old-fashioned Girlschool, really. This is not a bad album again. It's got some really meaty tracks on here. Very solid album. Enjoy listening to this one actually, and I'm going to give it an RTO ranking of 6.6. So coming in at number 8, then we have the 3rd album, released in 1982, Screaming Blue Murder. This was the first album that featured a lineup change where Jill Weston came in, formerly of the Killjoys, replacing Enid Williams. So on this one we've got Kim McAuliffe, Kelly Johnson, Jill Weston and Denise DuFort. First track on here is the title track, Screaming Blue Murder. It's not too bad. It's got some great guitar riffs here, and Kelly Johnson plays an awesome solo on that one. Then we get a Rolling Stones cover with Live With Me. It's not a bad cover. Love Jill Weston's bass line though, pretty good. Like that one a lot for a cover. And then we get Take It From Me. Some great guitar work here between Kim and Kelly. Adding Denise's drumming, you've got a really strong song. Wildlife. A really strong track. Great bass line. Thumping rocker. Turn Your Head Around. The bass line again is unreal. It's got a solid guitar riff as well. Lovely track. Don't Call It Love. Oh, this is the first real commercial sounding Girlschool song on the album. This is when they started to sort of try and get commercial. I think they were trying to hit America. There's certain bands that should just stay British, and these are one of them. It's the start of the turnaround. Then we get a brilliant track called Hellraiser. It's my favourite on the album. Straight out the school of Motorhead. You know, this song is absolutely dynamite. Great riffs, guitar solo from Kelly, brilliant. Then we get When Your Blood Runs Cold. Again, this is the start of the commercial sound. It's not too bad. You Got Me, this is more raw, dirty licks, brilliant track. Then the last track on here is Flesh and Blood, and again I'm not too keen on this one, and this is where the sound definitely started to change. I think there's some really good tracks on this album, but this was the start of that commercial sound in Girlschool. So I'm going to give this album an RTO ranking of 7 out of 10. Okay, then coming in at number 7. Go to the 7th album now, released in 1988, Take a Bite. It's the first album that featured Tracy Lamb replacing Jill Weston on the bass. So we've got Kim McAuliffe, Chris Bonacy, Tracy Lamb on bass, and Denise Dufort on the drums. And the first track on here is a track called Action. Nothing to do with the Sweetbert song, but it's a great opening track. The great guitar riffs from Kim and Chris, brilliant stuff. Then we do have a sweet cover, Fox on the Run. It's not the best cover I've ever heard. Leave that one to the sweet girls. So we'll move on. So the next one's Girls on Top. The 80s production is still about, but it's quite catchy. At least the drums sound good on it. That's one good thing. Then we get Tear It Up. The guitar work from Chris and Kim on this is amazing. The interplay is terrific. Love at First Bite. Brilliant stuff. Just what you need. Then we get Head Over Heels, best track on the album, written by Lemmy. It's a brilliant track. Up All Night, a little bit more generic, churn out the track sort of thing. It's okay. This time, solid track, really good riffs in this. Back in the day I could headbang to this, but I wouldn't even attempt headbanging these days. This time, really good solid track. Don't Walk Away, a little bit of the hot 80s production on it, not very keen on it. Too Hot to Handle, one of the best tracks on here, excellent rocker. Definitely their best album from the 1980s. It's getting more stripped back. There's still a bit of 80s production on it, but on the whole they're starting to distance them from that horrible 80s sound. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 7.5. Okay then, coming in at number 6, we go to the 10th album in 2004. It's called Believe. This is a new album with a different guitar player on it. Well, this is the first album that Jackie Chambers played on. So on here we've got Kim McAuliffe, Jackie Chambers, Enid Williams on the bass, and Denise Dufort. Why do I keep calling it a Dennis? I don't know. So the first track on here is called Come On Up. Great bass line on this from Enid Williams. Terrific track. Love that track. Then we get a track called Let's Get Hard. I love Kim's opening riff on this. Absolutely great. You get Jackie coming in on the top of that. Great little track. Let me get my favourite track on this album. This one's called Crazy. It's just got a catchy bass line from Enid. Terrific track. We all love to rock and roll. Just good old fashioned heavy metal. Anything that mentions the words rock and roll is always going to be good. Love that track a lot. Then we get a track called Secret. Strong track. Again, we got that Enid Williams bass line and a terrific guitar solo from the new girl Jackie. This is starting to sound like good old-fashioned Girlschool again. New Beginning, another good track. Them opening riffs from Kim. Always tell her great opening riffs. She's put many a good riff to an opening of a song. Great drumming from Denise. Terrific track. Then we get Come On, It's Alright. Nothing special on that one. Never Say Never. Solid track. Some great metal riffs on that. Again, another good solo from Jackie Chambers. You Say, just classic sounding Girlschool. They really went back to the roots on this album, and that's another fine example. Feel Good. They're going great. Denise's drumming is brilliant. She is a really good drummer. Keeps a tight beat. Excellent track. Some great solos on this as well, and riffs. Hold On Tight. Love that catchy riff at the beginning. You can hear the two guitarists working well on that one. Terrific track. Then we get Yes Means Yes. Short, but boy does it leave you with a good impression. Strong vocals, strong riffs, brilliant track. Then we have a track called We All Have to Choose. One of the weaker tracks on here. It just lacks something. Then we get a track called Play Around. Nothing wrong with this one. The guitar solo from Jackie's pretty good. And some solid drumming from Denise as ever. And then we get Passion, which is alright. It's just a generic rock track. Nothing really outstanding between the album. I think this is a really good album. They went back to basics, just what they needed to do. And I think they do a good job on this album, and I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 7.8. Okay, then coming in at number 5, we go to the 11th album now, released in 2008, and it's the 30th anniversary album called Legacy. We've got Girlschool and a few of their pals come in and help them with some tracks. So on here with the Girlschool are Kim McAuliffe, Jackie Chambers, Enid Williams, Dennis. Why do I keep calling her Dennis? Stop it, Iain. Denise Dufort, and Kelly Johnson has a ghost appearance apparently. Guest musicians on here we have JJ French and Eddie Ojaya from Twisted Sister, Neil Murray ex Whitesnake, Black Sabbath, Vowell on bass, he plays on 2 tracks. Phil Campbell, Fast Eddie Clarke, Lemmy, all from Motorhead of course. And then we get Ronnie James Dio, Rainbow, you name it, he's done it, and Mr. Tony Iommi, the legend from Black Sabbath. First track on here is called Everything's the Same. One of the best openers for any Girlschool album. And riffs are just absolutely dynamite. From the Other Side, great sounding track. The guitar work between Jackie and Kim on this is brilliant. They really work well together. Then we get a track called I Spy, in brackets Girlschool mix, and there is a reason for this. I love the harmonies on this between Enid and Kim. Brilliant. Denise's drumming is solid as ever. It's a really good track. Then we get Spend, Spend, Spend. The guitar solo is Eddie Ojada's. Great contribution on this. Great solo. Tell it straight out of a Twisted Sister sound. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant track. New Whole World. This has got Mr. Murray on the bass, driving the song along. Put a bit of Phil Campbell on some guitar work, and the solo from Phil is brilliant. Just Another Day. It's all right. It's not. It's a good track, but it's the weakest track on the album. Then we get a track called Legend. Obviously this is the song that's a tribute to Kelly Johnson, who sadly passed away a year previous of cancer. It's just nice they paid tribute to the great Kelly Johnson, and you can tell in the way they're singing it there's a bit of passion, and it was actually written by Jackie Chambers, who took over from Kelly. So that's nice that she wrote a song. You know, she had big shoes to fill, and I think she's done a great job. It's very nice that she wrote this song about her as well. Still Waters, great bass line from Enid when she wrote the song. Denise's drumming is brilliant. Then we get a cover song. Metropolis, of course, is a Motorhead song, and what makes this really good, the solo is actually played by the man who played the solo, Mr. Eddie Clark. There's always been a really strong connection between Motorhead and Girlschool. They've collaborated, they've covered each other's songs over the years. It's a great version, a really good solid track. Then we get a track called Don't Mess Around. A great track again. I just love this sound. It's just good old-fashioned heavy metal. Not enough of it around. Then we get a track called Zeitgeist. Solo on here is done by the one and only Mr. Phil Campbell. Excellent track. And then we get Don't Talk to Me, which guest vocalist on here is the legendary bass player, the man of gravel vocals, Lemmy. My favourite track on here. And I've always said this about this. I think Girlschool are the female version of Motorhead, and this track proves it. They provide the music, Lemmy does the singing and the bass, and you wouldn't know the difference. Terrific song. Then we get I Spy, the Dio Iommi mix, and they do a brilliant version of this song. Yeah, they just kill it, absolutely kill it. On the money. Dio sounds great on this. The ads of Tony Iommi on guitars is brilliant as well. Then we get Emergency, which is a classic remake of one of their songs. I don't care, it's a great song. It always sounds good. Then they do London, which is a song off, I think it's a B-side. It's a very, very post-punk, but the original is better, I think. This is a very enjoyable album. You've got members of great bands all putting their sixpenneth on this great album, and I'm going to give it an RTO ranking of 8 out of 10. Okay, then coming in at number 4, we have the most current album. It was their 13th, released in 2015, Guilty as Sin. It was the last album that actually featured Enid Williams, who left in 2019. So it's King McAuliffe, Jackie Chambers, Enid Williams and Denise Dufort. First track on here, Come the Revolution. Great opening track, great riffs, catchy tune. If I could headbang, I'd headbang to that still. Take It Like a Band. Again, I've also said this is Motorhead. Their sort of sound crossed, and this is a great track. You know, Motorhead could have done that track. Then we have the title track, which is called Guilty as Sin. Really strong track again. Great bass line from Enid. Very strong drumming from Denise, considering she is now a grandmother of in her 60s. Hard to believe that Denise is in the 60s, still rocks. Treasure, solid track. Again, Denise is on fire. Then we have The Blip on the album, a cover of the Bee Gees' Staying Alive. We don't want to hear that really. It's a tad better than Ozzy's version, but not much. Perfect Storm. This opens up with a great little lick from Jackie, and then you get Enid's bass line come on. It's brilliant. Painful. Opens up with a great little bass line, and as ever, Denise is cool on the drums. Night Before, more ferocious style Motorhead metal here. Great track. And then they do a cover of a very traditional song called Everybody Loves Saturday Night. I think everybody knows this. Song originated in Nigeria. Then it went over to Trinidad and they made a calypso version of it. Aldwin Roberts did in the 40s. Lots of people have covered this. A lot of folk groups like the New Christy Minstrels, Bud and Travis, Serendipity Singers, I think that's how you pronounce it. It's also done by a staple of the jazz groups. But a metal version, does it work? Yes, it does. They make a really good go of it. It's a terrific little track. Okay, then, Coming Your Way. It's got some nice riffs in it. And then we get a remake song. It's called Tonight. It's actually a remake of a B-side of the single Hit and Run from 1980. It's not a bad recording. I don't mind it. But this album, of course, proves that the Girlschool of the 21st century can still make a damn good album. It's a brilliant album. I love this album, and I'm going to give it an RTO ranking of 8.3. Okay, then, coming in at number 3, we have the 9th album, released in 2002. 21st century anniversary, Not That Innocent. Now, this has got a bit of history to it. The production of the album was prolonged because Kelly Johnson and Tracy Lamb left. They brought in Jackie Chambers. Enid Williams came back in. So there's lots of people playing on this, and I'll read you through who plays on what because it's very complicated. So you got Kim McAuliffe does lead vocals and rhythm guitar on tracks 2, 6, 9, 10, 11 and 12. Kelly Johnson does lead vocals on tracks 3, 4, 5, 7, 8 and 13. Lead guitar on tracks 2, 11 and 13. Told you it was complicated. Jackie Chambers, the new guitarist, does tracks 1 and 12. Tracy Lamb plays bass on tracks 2 and 11. Enid Williams does lead vocals on track 1 and bass on tracks 1 and 12. The only other person that played on everything was Denise on the drums. And then they had to get their producer Tim Hamill to play the bass on track 13. So all over the place. I'm not going to mention now, I'll just go through the tracks because it gets confusing. So the first track on here is Coming Your Way. Solid track, great bass line, love that track. Then we get a great track, Mad Mad Sister, really good rocker, really meaty, brilliant stuff. A Love Too Far. Now this is a song written by Kelly Johnson, and it's one of the songs that really doesn't belong on this album because it's not metal, but it's a terrific song. I love it. Stay Wild is the next track. This has got one of them great little riffs, and it's great drumming from Denise. Knife, solid sounding, classic Girlschool. That's all I can describe it as. The driving riffs, the great solos, brilliant. London, this is a re-recorded song from I think a B-side or something. It's not too bad. I Told You So, great rich opening riff from Kelly and Kim. Great track. Have a Nice Day, driving riffs on that. Born to Be, this reminds me of some really early Motorhead, and we're talking the first couple of albums from Motorhead. Hooked, bit of a post-punk feel to it, but I love it. Little Green Man, it's not the best track on the album, but it's still got a bit of a kick. Then we get Innocent, Fast and Furious, brilliant track. The bass line is brilliant. I think this is Enid, great stuff. And then the last track, Everybody Does It, weakest track on the album, not very good. This is one of the rawest albums actually. Every track on here is great except the last track. Even that one that doesn't really fit on the album is a really good song. Love this album, and I'm going to give it an RTO ranking of 8.4. Okay then, coming in at number 2 is their second album. A lot of people will have put this at the top, and it's Hit and Run, released in 1981. You'll find out why it's my number 2 at the end of this little talk about it. So we've got the classic lineup of Girlschool: Kim McAuliffe, Kelly Johnson, Enid Williams and Denise DeFort. First track on here, Come On Let's Go. This is a classic track from Girlschool. Great energy on this, the drumming is superb, and I love the riffs. It's dirty. The Hunter is the next track. The start of this is brilliant. It sort of starts a little, not gentle, but a bit calmer, and builds up until it's just brilliant. And then you get a great solo from Kelly. Brilliant. I'm Your Victim. Again, this is Kelly Johnson on fire. The solo is just brilliant. She was competing with some great guitar players at the time, and she absolutely is on fire. Then we get my favourite track on this album, Kick It Down. I've always loved this track. Enid's bass line is absolutely booming. Again, Kelly's guitar work is always brilliant. Then we get Following the Crowd. Now, on this, the original album, I'm not very keen on this one, and it's one of them tracks from that revisited that I think is better. Then of course we get Tush, the ZZ Top track. That's alright. Good solo though by Kelly, and that's the highlight of that cover. Then we get the title track, of course, Hit and Run, classic track by the band. Love this version, although I do love the version they did with Dora Pesh on the revisited. Watch Your Step, a track that I think is far better on the revisited album. It's not very good on this album. Back to Star, again a track that's quite weak on this, but when they redid it, it sounds a lot richer. That's a better version. Yeah, right, this is a track that I don't like on any version. It's probably one of the worst tracks I think Girlschool ever recorded. And then Future Flash, I don't like this version either. It's terrible, but the version on the revisited is a lot better. As I said, this is everyone's favourite album except mine. I think up till Hit and Run, it's absolutely brilliant. Even Tush, I can live with that, but from then in, the tracks get worse. And I think if you put the 7 from the original album and the 4 from the revisited, it would be a killer album. But that's not what it is. So I do like this album, don't get me wrong, and I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 8.5. Now, my number 1, and there is a really good reason why this is number 1, and you'll find out in a minute. It's their debut album from 1980, Demolition. So it's Kim, Kelly, Enid and Denise. Their first album, and they opened up the album with a brilliant track, one of my favourite tracks by the band, Demolition Boys. Oh, hard, heavy stuff. Absolutely mind-blowing. Brilliant track. Great guitar solo. Love it to death. Not For Sale. Killer solo from Kelly Johnson. Again, the drums sound great on this. Denise is just absolutely on fire. Now this is the next track, is the track that really got me into this band. And the first time I heard this is on an album that we've talked about. It's a compilation album called Axe Attack. And we're talking about Race with the Devil, of course, the gun cover. Absolutely blew me away. I've heard the original and it was good, but this is absolutely stunning. The guitar solo is brilliant. Now the only time I've really heard that guitar solo was in the middle of the live version of Quo's 4500 times. But this version is just better than Guns. Oh, brilliant. My favourite song by Girlschool. Kelly's just brilliant on this. Great vocal as well. top drawer stuff. Next track, Take It All Away. Raw plug-in and go heavy metal. Great drums. Again, Kelly's guitar work on this is absolutely fabulous. Nothing to Lose, great track. This album is just full of brilliant tracks. Drumming's brilliant. Kelly's brilliant on this. Enid's bass line is brilliant. Great vocal. Everything right about it. Breakdown. Again, we've got a great stunning bass line. Throw in a few great licks from Kelly. Awesome track. Midnight Ride, my second track on here. The solo is absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. It just competes with anybody. Then we get a classic, The Emergency. I love this track. First time I heard it, brilliant. Then I heard Motorhead do a version of it, brilliant. Just a brilliant track. Just shows that these two bands are very, very similar. Doesn't matter if it's Lemmy singing it or Kim, it's brilliant. Baby Doll. Now this is probably the weakest track on this album. Vocally weak, but the riffs are good. Deadline. I reckon this is Enid Williams' finest performance on this album. The bass line just drives it along, and then the layers of Kelly's guitar work just makes it a brilliant track to end the album. I love this album. Heard the track Dance Race with the Devil. Found out the band managed to get a copy of the album. Can't remember. I won't say how I got this album because back in 1980 I was still at school. Yeah, I love it. Kelly's guitar work on this is just absolutely amazing. I mean, you can consider some of the guitarists that were starting out at the time as well. Dave Murray, Paul Quinn, Steve Clark, all fine guitarists. And Kelly's up there with them, I think. She is sadly missed, and she is a legend guitar player and did so much for heavy metal and heavy metal bands that come after for girls. The whole band did, actually. I think this is a great album, played to death still today, and I think it still sounds as fresh. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 9 out of 10. So there we go. Girlschool, a great metal band, still going today. They are the longest running women's all band. That didn't come out right. All a women's band. They are, a lot of other bands get influenced by them, especially metal girls. I always say how good, especially girls of my age, women now, they always said it's great that us girls can come out there and rock with the boys. Okay, I'll be back later with a very special retro ranking today. It's a tribute to the one and only Miss Olivia Newton-John. So join me for that. Bye for now.